Welcome to Change the Culture. The Change the Culture podcast is here to educate on the importance of empowerment self-defense, ESD, so that we can prevent and reduce interpersonal violence in our communities and around the world. Studies have shown that 1 in 3 women, 1 in 6 men, and 1 in 5 children experience interpersonal violence in their lifetime, and isolation caused by the pandemic has increased incidence of domestic violence by more than 30%. This is why we're here. My name is Annie Orenstein, and today on the show we have Sarah Gordon Lavine. Hi, welcome.
Thank you. Hello.
Thank you for being on the show. I'd like to just share a little bit about you with your bio. Sarah Gordon Lavine is a senior ESD and martial arts instructor at Halev in Jerusalem. She is a black belt in Kung Fu from 5 Element Martial Arts, training under Shifu Sensei Kore Grate in Minneapolis, Minnesota. In addition, she has a BA in biology from Colorado College and is a licensed practitioner of traditional Chinese medicine from Reedman College. Sarah began learning and teaching ESD in 1997 when she started her training at feminist Eclectic Martial Arts, which is now called 5 Element Martial Arts in Minneapolis. After moving to Israel in 2003, she looked for a way to continue training in self-defense and martial arts and found her place at El Halev. She completed the El Halev teacher training course in 2013 and has been teaching and empowering women, teens, and children in Israel and abroad ever since. In addition, Ms. Gordon Lavine has been an ESD Global Lead Instructor and Mentor since 2018. Most recently, Sarah has been involved in content creation for the My Power ESD app. So you do so much. Thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Amazing. So tell our listeners, share with us what was it like growing up in the U.S., how you got involved in martial arts and Kung Fu.
Okay. I grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and that's my home. That's the experience I have growing up. But as a child, I was always very active, and I did gymnastics competitively for all my elementary school years. And then I transitioned into dance. And then I kind of left that. And after college, I was looking for a way to get back into physical activity. And I actually, some of my friends were doing Tai Chi at that time. And there was even an Aikido seminar at my university where that was actually my first introduction to the idea of Chi, of energy, at this Aikido seminar. And this fellow asked us to hold out our hands, in front of us, and like imagine that we are like a fire hydrant or a fire hose with water streaming through. And then like, imagine you're the hose without water streaming through, and someone would push down on your hand and it would fall. And he's like, now imagine that the hose is flooded with water streaming through. And then the same person tried to push down on my hand and they couldn't. And I was really blown away by that. Like what is this thing, Chi? What is this energy? So that stuck with me. And I found as I was in my early 20s looking for ways to be active, some of my friends were doing Tai Chi, and I participated in some classes and fell in love with it. So in 96, I did a year-long Tai Chi course through the University of Minnesota, and I loved it. But the teachers were men, and I was like, it's kind of, I don't know. There was something about the attitude that wasn't comfortable for me. So I looked in the phone book at that time because, that's what there was before smartphones and the internet, and for schools that were near me. And lo and behold, this school called Feminist Eclectic Martial Arts was right in my neighborhood. So I went.
Wow.
I went for a lesson, and I'm still with them, however many years later.
Wow, that's incredible. I love it. So I also, I myself dabbled in Tai Chi with my grandmother. She used to take me to Tai Chi with her at the old age home that was near us.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I used to go with her. I was a teenager at the time, but that was, it was really wonderful to spend that time with her. And it's an impressive art form. So, and can you share with us who your biggest role model was at the time?
Well, my Shifu at that time became my biggest role model because she was very much a martial artist. I mean, she's still alive. She is a martial artist through and through, a warrior, but also embodied the idea of compassion, like the compassionate warrior. She's very caring, and that I think is what I was feeling like was possibly missing at my first Tai Chi school. It was very focused on the needs of women, and I very much appreciated the emphasis on both, needing both, like the warrior spirit, but also the compassion. We're not learning martial arts to go and beat people up, but we're learning to build our self-confidence and feel our personal power, and for our own selves, and also to give to our communities and to our greater surroundings.
That's wonderful. So you had an opportunity to tap into these new strengths and also find and develop your identity as being a strong woman, learning martial arts, another identity, and also within the compassion, the element of compassion that you were able to bring into the martial arts while you were learning. It's very powerful for us to tap into. At the same time, what we can do and our ability to give compassion. So that's wonderful. And can you share about, I understand that when you first started teaching, you also taught the 5 fingers of self-defense. How did you find empowerment self-defense? How did you come to ESD? Is that?
Well, it was part of the introductory course at Feminist Eclectic Martial Arts. Was called a portion of like a 3-month course was called the 5 fingers of self-defense. And that is basically what has become empowerment self-defense now, in using the 5 principles of think, yell, run, fight, and tell, and with the image of a hand, in the stop position. So as intermediate and advanced students, we were able to assist in teaching courses. We would teach courses to the community. We would invite people to the dojo, but also people would invite us to come there, like community centers or different organizations. So we had opportunities to teach this.
That's great.
Yeah.
And maybe you could share with our listeners, Sarah, how ESD has been impactful in preventing violence. I mean, now it's a global movement. We have ESD Global, not just where you work, where you share about El Halev soon. But what is the mission and the vision of ESD Global, ESD in general, like its need to get out there? So how has it impacted others?
Well, I think ESD is distinguished from different other types of self-defense by being emphasizing tools for prevention and giving tools for interpersonal violence, which is the type of violence that women and teens and children experience most. The highest percentage happens with people that we know, family members, or other people that we're close to at our schools or other organizations that we belong to.
Right.
And so in those situations, there's a lot of need to understand boundaries and when a boundary is being crossed, because the process is a gradual one. It's not like the idea of someone jumping out from a bush, from behind a bush to attack you, but this is people that and you see every day, and they're always checking our boundaries to see what's possible. So one of the tools that I really appreciate about ESD is the strong emphasis on boundary setting and it being a tool for prevention. So before you even get to a point where you have to physically defend yourself, you are able to prevent a possible situation. That's, in the best of, best scenarios to avoid any dangerous situations or unhealthy situations in the first place. So boundary setting includes getting to know, well, what are our boundaries and how do we know when they're being crossed? So there's a lot of focus on understanding your intuition, what that feels like, and combining that with awareness of your surroundings, and then being able, and then giving you what to do about it. You're like, oh, okay, some boundary of mine is being crossed. What can I do about it? And so then we have verbal strategies that we teach to help set boundaries. The most simple one being no, being able to say no loud, so we teach, we have tools for using the voice and strong body language and combining them to set boundaries when we feel that we need to.
Using the 5 principles is an incredible tool, because in any circumstance and situation, even not ones that are quote unquote dangerous, we can use the 5 tools to think about what's going on here, and to ask ourselves, are we comfortable with that, to assess, and using the word no, or when we say yeah, right, that's using our words and our communication, and finding our voices. It's a whole wonderful process to understand what do I do now. So I really I really I'm grateful for teachers like yourself that have dedicated themselves to teach this tool of think, yell, run, fight, and tell. And of course, you can maybe mention about tell, and what we know what fight is, and we know what run is, but what's the impact of tell?
Tell is really important. It's basically, the idea is don't, if something if something happens to you, there's this really natural inclination to feel like it's my fault. I did something wrong. It's my fault. And, blame and shame and blame. It's my fault, and I'm ashamed, and I don't want to tell anyone. I just want to keep it a secret. But the negative impacts of that, there are negative impacts, which one is that, that whatever's happening could keep happening. If nobody knows it, you can't get help.
Right.
And the other impact is that you carry this negative feeling with you inside, which has all kinds of, it can even manifest itself in health problems further along in life, and negative behavior patterns also. So by telling, we allow ourselves to get help, which can hopefully, stop a situation that's happening, and maybe prevent it from happening to other people. And also to clear the air, we get that negativity out of us. And hopefully, if we're talking to the right people, we understand that it's not our fault. In our ESD classes, we always, from the first lesson, it's the human right for safety. Everybody has the right to be safe. And if somebody infringes on your safety, that is their fault. It's not your fault. You've done nothing wrong. It's always the attacker's fault, always the perpetrator's fault. And that is the truth. But sometimes we feel like it's our fault. So by talking about it, we can get support and help and affirmations, and help ourselves understand that, oh yeah, this wasn't my fault. So we can, and that can help us heal. It helps the healing process.
Absolutely. It's really it caps off all the empowerment. It's the ability to tell people that we trust, and helps us heal, takes the toxins out, right? And I'm a big teller. Any case, but so wow, that's amazing. And Sarah, can you share with us about El Halev? Share with us your journey and how you got to El Halev. You moved to Israel, and you wanted to continue your journey. Yeah.
So I moved to Israel officially in 2003, but I actually came in 2002, and there was a lot of good reasons for that, and I'm very grateful that I did. But the hardest thing about moving was leaving my dojo, and that was a very hard process for me. And so when I came to Israel, I was always looking for ways to continue my martial arts training, and I found basically the year after I made Aliyah, I started training and doing the course for traditional Chinese medicine. And in my course, I found another woman who also doing the course who taught jujitsu. And I was like, oh, woman jiu-jitsu, which is part of our system that we learned. And so I started training with her, and one of the places that she trained, taught classes was at El Halev. So which was in downtown Jerusalem at that time. So that was my first introduction to El Halev. But also I had actually met Yehudit Siddickman and Jill Shames, who were the co-founders of El Halev in the United States before I came to Israel, at a summer training. The National Women's Martial Arts Federation every summer has what they call a special training. It's like 4 days of martial arts training for women from all over the United States and abroad. So my teacher, Shifu Kore, had known Yehudit, and she knew that I was interested in Israel. And so she introduced us at that time, and that was like in the year 2000. And so that had like planted a seed that,
Wow.
that came to fruition later. But the first actual courses that I took at El Halev were jiu-jitsu courses with Yael Arnon. And I knew that I wanted to be part of El Halev at some point, down the line, but I didn't know how. But I had gone to talk to them and said, I want to do this course whenever. And a few years later, I'd had 2 kids by that time. I got a call from Hannah Weinberg. And he said, yeah, we're doing this course. And my youngest child was 2 at that time. And I was like, all right, sign me up. I'm doing it. And that was in 2011. So I took the teacher training course in 2012 and the 2012-2013 year, and started then teaching in 2013. And I'm still.
Wow. And so you've been really part of El Halev since before it started.
Yeah.
You met Yehudit, and since its inception, it's celebrating 20 years, right? Or just about, maybe next year. El Halev will be around for 20 years. And I think, right, 2003?
I think, yeah, my Aliyah was basically the time that they founded El Halev.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And so maybe God prepped that for you.
Maybe
like,
so.
well, if Sarah is coming, then we'll start El Halev. And you've been a part of that family. And El Halev does amazing, incredible things. And you've been teaching through El Halev, both in Israel, around Israel, and around the world, even.
Yeah.
ESD Global. So maybe you want to share with our listeners of Change the Culture what El Halev offers and where, and your travels. Love to hear about where you've been.
So El Halev is an amazing organization based in Jerusalem, Israel. And the goal is, the mission statement is to empower women and children and girls, and now also boys and men with tools of ESD, self-defense. And we teach courses locally in Jerusalem, but also all over Israel. And an offshoot of El Halev is ESD Global. So we have this amazing tool, ESD. Why can't we, spread it as much as possible? So I think that was the idea behind founding ESD Global. Yehudit Siddickman, who was a co-founder of El Halev, founded ESD Global with that mission in mind, I believe. And that was started in 2017. So I started working with them in 2018, doing the level 1 course, which is the ESD teacher training course in New York, Huguenot, New York, at the YMCA camp there. I did that for 2 years. And I've also, more recently than this past year, taught 2 level 1 courses in Albania, Tirana. Wow. And also, I had a great opportunity to teach in India, which was a combined endeavor between ESD Global, El Halev, and the Fakuda Foundation, which was a judo organization founded in the memory of Kiko Fakuda Sensei. And the mission of that, it's very similar to ESD Global and El Halev, but it's to empower women and girls in to defend themselves and to live safe and healthy lives through judo. So myself and another instructor went to India, and they teach in 14 schools in India, this foundation. And so we taught ESD and judo together, and that was really amazing.
Wow, that's incredible. Each place you go to has a different culture, and each culture has to be learned. We can't impose upon anybody, and it's something that I discussed with Renee Wentz from Belize, and how she acclimated to the culture there. There's a lot of catcalling there and things like that. So whether you're in India, you've been to, of course, New York, which is where I'm from, you've been to Albania. So is there something that you teach first? Besides, we talked about the five principles, but do you find there to be a universal message that is so important that you just have to get to everybody? You can't leave unless they know this.
I think the basic message is that we all have the right to be safe. And we have the right to say something if we are not safe, if we feel like our boundaries are being crossed in a way that is unhealthy for us. How that manifests in different places is different, but I feel like even before we get to the 5 fingers, we start modeling that by the introduction to a course, what we call building the container, where we talk about, well, kind of the rules of engagement, the rules for the course, and we ask people what make agreements, like agreements for how we're gonna engage with each other in this course. And some of them, for example, is the rule of no shoulda, coulda, woulda. Like the stuff that you're learning now is not meant for you to use it to judge yourself about what you did in the past or how you behaved in the past, like, oh, if only I'd known this, I could have done something different 2 years ago, whatever happened. So the idea that whatever we did in the past those are the tools we had at that time, and now we're gonna increase our tools, and we're gonna have more options hopefully in the future. So respecting ourselves, respecting what we have had and what we will have, hopefully in the future. That's one thing. And also to acknowledge our feelings. If stuff comes up, that's okay. It's okay to have feelings around things that have happened, to express them, and this is a safe environment. And to acknowledge that we're going through a process. Of course, the stuff that you learn in this course is basically a beginning. It's like throwing a stone in the water. It creates ripples that go out, that continue after you leave the course. So those are, and then also non-judgmental ways of conducting ourselves as the teachers. We ask people to share in the class if they want to share, and we respect what they say. We receive it, we say thank you, but there's no judgment. There's not judgment by us or by the teachers or by the other participants. Thank you for sharing, but we're not like, why didn't you do this or why didn't you do that? So even before we start the 5 fingers part, we're setting up an environment that hopefully feels safe, that allows people to absorb what we're teaching and to connect that with experiences that they've had or that they're having, and that they can maybe heal from those, or move on in a healthier way, with the rest of their life.
Wow.
I've kind of diverted from what you asked.
No, that's exactly the power of what ESD is. And you're setting, before you teaching the tools, you're creating the setting the stage for them to receive the tools in the best way, which it needs to be done without judgment and in a safe environment where they could actually be who they are without that judgment. It's very important, very powerful. And it builds the trust, so that the person that's experiencing the class can really use it as an opportunity to even heal from past experiences. Back in March, I had the privilege to learn to take impact, and you're one of the instructors, and and I was just blown away. I know that I've only touched the tip of the iceberg of what I could learn, but I was blown away by the process, by the journey, by the ability to just receive us as who we are. And some of the participants came with real stories that they had to kind of face again throughout the process. And for me, I'm just sharing my own experience and my feedback of how it impacted me to see others and myself let go a little bit of control and break, and also like have a little bit of, tears come down because I'm going, processing what I'm learning. We come out different people from impact. So maybe you want to tell us about your journey to impact and how you became, becoming an instructor for impact.
Sure. I just wanted to tie back one thing to what you just asked. You asked me, like, what is the universal message, or what is the one message like that connect that for when we go to different cultures, how is there a universal message? So I think the universal message is that we have the right to safety, and that this course hopefully models what it feels like to be in a safe environment, and ways of behavior, different types of behaviors that enable a safe environment and safe interactions. Impact. So impact is a course, if ESD is a course that emphasizes prevention and de-escalation, which is a word I haven't used yet, but how to de-escalate and prevent escalation of a situation, and hopefully prevent physical violence. Impact gives tools for what if you're already in a violent situation. There's physical violence and you fight, right? The fight finger. It's the emphasis of impact is largely the fight finger, although we do also include boundary setting, verbal boundary setting, and tell as well. And so the course is conducted with a padded instructor, and an additional, there's 2 instructors, a padded instructor and a non-padded instructor, and you're guided through different scenarios where different fight scenarios where you're fighting against a padded instructor, and you get to hit them as hard as you can. You practice in adrenalized situations where you're full of adrenaline, and you get to hit with full impact, and you learn specific techniques like a palm heel strike or knee to the groin, and you can do that with full impact against another human who's fully protected and doesn't feel pain from what you're doing in the course. So it's a very unique experience, and it allows the training in an adrenalized state allows not only your mind to learn, but your body, so that in a situation, you can act without thinking first. It enables your sort of immediate reaction. And although the freeze, there's fight, flight, and freeze. Freeze is a very natural situation when we feel like we're in harm's way in a serious way. It can help us overcome the freeze if we have this practice of acting in an adrenalized state. So that seemed intimidating when I first heard about it, and intriguing. And as part of our teacher training course at Halev, we did a taster course in impact. I liked it, and I wanted to do more, so I decided to train to become an impact instructor. And in part of it, the training period is long, and I found that every time that I would help with the course, be an assistant in the course, I got sick somehow. One time I wound up in the hospital for several days with IV antibiotics. One time I got pneumonia. Wow. Every time I participated in impact, I got sick, and I was like, how many times do I have to get hit over the head before I say to myself, maybe this is not for me right now? So I took a break from impact and for a few years, and then there was a restructuring of impact at El Halev, and the course was kind of redesigned, and the length of the course and also the content of the course a little bit. And I decided to give it another try. And the new arrangement seems to work much better for me. And I am basically just in this last year, I did two teacher trainings as a participant, and then most recently taught my first course. So as an instructor, lead instructor, and I'm really excited to continue.
Wow, it's an intensive course for those that are participating, and also to be the instructor, it takes a lot of the prep, the hours of being there. I mean, the course itself is over days and for hours at a time, and you have to be all in. It teaches us to be all in, put your phones away, and step up. And so it's a very, very powerful element to what ESD has to offer, as well as, I mean, a few other courses at El Halev over the summer. There were courses given to young girls and summer camps, right? Weekly summer camps, freedom to choose. Maybe you can share about that. Do you teach those as well?
Yeah, this summer was actually the first summer that I didn't teach a summer camp, but every summer I participate in teaching the summer camps, and they are at least a week long, and they used to be, they're different. Post-corona is different than pre-corona. It used to be for elementary and junior high and high school, and it used to be week long, and it used to be a full day camp with martial arts classes and ESD self-defense classes and other activities, you know, like fun regular camp activities, art, music, you know, movies, whatever. Post-corona, we've been doing like half-day summer camp, half-day for 4 days, 1 week courses, basically, like good booster shots for high school and junior high teen girls. And the emphasis is on ESD and martial arts, and they're really fun.
Excellent. Wow. And teaching women and girls around the world, it must be very, very, it's very special to see them walk out, you know, safer as individuals. They get to grow up in just a week. They're more prepared for years of their life, meaning in 1 week you can teach them so much.
And the beautiful thing about these camps at El Halev is there's girls who started when they were in whatever, 3rd grade, but they come back every year, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade. And we've had a few that have become, you know, like assistant instructors. And even with my own daughter, we had also a camp at Passover time, summer camp and a Passover camp. And I took her basically for 4 years, kind of like a booster shot to the Passover camp to get reacquainted with the principles of ESD. And a lot of people come again and again if they can, and it's amazing to see them grow up, because, you know, this podcast is called Changing the Culture. It's happening. You know, we have girls who are growing up and now in this with the knowledge and awareness of ESD, and it's impacting how they are in the world and also their surroundings, their friends, and the choices that they make. So it's beautiful to see.
That's
what that inspires me to continue.
That's amazing. So the first course that they take, the younger girls take, it's called Freedom to Choose.
That the younger girl, well, actually, the children's program, we have a children's program which is up till age 11, and that's basically, it's called personal safety. It's not called self-defense. And so, if you know, and then after age 11, it's called there's different names, like We have a course called Safe Transitions for like junior high age girls, what we call bat mitzvah age girls. There's also, we do a mother-daughter course for 12-year-olds, which is a great course that enables, one of the primary emphasis, the things we emphasize in that class is building bridges of communication between like the mother or the parents and the kids, so that they have a common language and they can talk about issues that come up. They have this shared experience, and then they can continue a dialogue afterwards.
Wow. Wow, that's really great. That's really great to share that experience with a loved one, with a parent, a daughter, a mother and a daughter, and a daughter and the mother. It's very bonding, and you walk away really. Wow. So before we end off, I'll just ask you a few more questions, because you shared about your practice in Chinese medicine and the overlap, and how one complements the other. Your work with empowerment self-defense. So maybe you'll share about that, and also a little bit about creating content for our My Power app.
Okay. So yeah, basically, in my life in Israel since 2003, I've had been growing in two parallel lines as a Chinese medicine practitioner and teaching self-defense and martial arts. And one of the things that I've found, I didn't know it to begin with, was that they really complement each other. As a martial, when I go into my practice as an acupuncturist, the more I teach self-defense, the more confident I feel as a practitioner, the more in my body and in my presence, I'm a better practitioner of acupuncture because I teach self-defense. And the flip side, I think, is that I have like the overarching view that I have is healing. And in my practice as an acupuncturist, I'm working with people individually, one at a time, to heal their body, or their, or their souls or their minds, their emotional self and their physical self. But it's the same in self-defense, but because it's a process of healing also. But the self-defense courses are also in a group. So it's actually a group dynamic that enables some of that healing process to happen, and the sharing and the community building. It's amazing, particularly with the groups of women that I've taught, that they bond as a group and they keep in touch with each other afterwards. So it's really like really nice connections that are made that continue on after the course.
Wow, that's great. And so, and now Halev and My Power, I'm sitting here under the hat of My Power Ltd, and we are creating the app to teach ESD, to bring it to everyone around the world, because even though the impact and the course impact and the impact of ESD is most impactful one-on-one, or not one-on-one in group settings, but face-to-face in the room, we're together, and it creates that camaraderie. During COVID, we saw the uptick in interpersonal violence and in violence that's in homes and situations. We understood the need to do what we can to bring it and put it in the hands of everybody, and we can. So you're a part of creating the content for the app, and you're in a bunch of the videos, teaching techniques. So what's that experience like for you?
Well, it's fun.
More famous.
I'm really in awe of the process that is taking place in building this app. It's basically, the idea is to take all the knowledge that's been accumulated about teaching ESD and the principles of ESD, and taking like the experience of teaching frontally in a class, in an in-person class, and putting that in an app. And how do you translate that into an app? I'm basically quoting Judith Sigmund right now. And it's a process, and the people, and I'm very privileged and very happy to be a part of it. And I think that it's going to be a really impactful tool.
Mhm.
And obviously the impact will be so much broader being in a smartphone in your hand.
Right.
And I'm really excited to see how it blossoms and continues to grow, and to hear people's experiences using it.
Wow. Well, here's the opportunity to say thank you, Sarah Gordon Lavine, for teaching and making the world a safer place, one person at a time. And I bless you with continued strength to do that. And maybe you just want to share with us that one last message you'd like to get out there. A shout out to a mentor.
Okay. Everybody has. I really believe in the idea of being a personal role model, and I have my role models in my Shifu, Sensei Kore Grate, and Judith Siddickman, and others, people who are dedicated to making the world safer and better. And part of how they do that is being who they are in the world, modeling that for others, and they're an inspiration to me in how they model. And so each one of us has the ability to inspire others through our own choices and we act in the world. So to believe in yourself and to be your best self.
Beautiful.
Others.
Beautiful. Again, thank you, Sarah Gordon Lavine, lead instructor for ESD Global and instructor at Halev. I bless you again with continued success. And thank you so much for everything that you're doing. Anybody that would like to find out more about Halev can go to elhalev.org, ESD Global selfdefense.org to find out about programs in your area. Thank you to our listeners and to our guests, of course. And we would love to hear from our listeners of the Change the Culture podcast. You can email me at annie.orenstein@mypower.co.il and pop over to the Change the Culture Facebook group and share your thoughts, questions, and success stories with us. And feel free to catch up on our last podcast where we had on the show Judith Siddickman, CEO of My Power, Samantha Waterman of the Association of ESD Professionals, as well as first gold medalist in Taekwondo, Arlene Lemus of PAVE Prevention. We had on Renee Wentz from Chien Personal Safety in Belize, as well as Tasha Anna Church from Hawaii. We want you to be part of the conversation as well as part of the solution. So stay tuned for the next Change the Culture podcast, where we will hear from more professionals in the field of ESG around the world. Thank you so much.
Annie, thank you.